Hello, welcome to Fat Dad Fishing Show. My name is Rich. I am the host of this show, and tonight we've got the standard crew here. So we're going to welcome on Ed and John. So Ed, owner of Captain Hank's Tackle, and John, owner of Creeley Custom Rods. How you guys doing?
Doing well, doing well. How are you, John?
I'm doing great, guys. Good to see everybody. Glad we're back together for this week. Talk more fluking. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's it's been a crazy time as I sit here and try to mute my phone. I've been going crazy trying to get everything ready for this tonight. I have missed doing this. We took the 1 week off, and that was mainly because there was just way too much going on with all of us. And then I also went on vacation to the Outer Banks last week, so I was out of town anyway, so I just couldn't do the podcast, couldn't do the live stream. But man, I'm looking forward to getting back doing this tonight, and then next week we have M&K Outdoors on, so Mike and Kaylee will be on. I'm looking forward to that one. So pretty happy to be back in the swing of things. And talk a little bit about fishing, even though I was not really doing a ton of fishing over the past week. So, Ed, I assume you were with me and you didn't get out often either.
Yeah, no, it was pretty quiet. I think the last time I fished was actually that day you and I went out with Mike. Between weather and work and getting back into swing of things, it's been quiet.
Yeah, that was an interesting day. We'll talk about that in a minute. John, you've been out though. How have you been doing?
Just Friday, and Friday was finally successful. I want to talk about that later on though when we start getting into the live stream, because that's going to be a lot of the topic tonight, what we're looking at. So
yeah, well let's start off. I did have a few things I wanted to share. Again, I wasn't in the Northeast or Mid-Atlantic. I was down in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, so I wasn't able to get out, and I don't really have much to share with the local fisheries. So I'm going to jump in and show some reports that I've gotten over the past couple of weeks from a few people. Before I do that, I want to say hi to the guys that are jumping in the chat: James and Bill, Participation Trophy, KBB, and Crabbing and Fishing. Good to see you guys here. And I want to bring up and add here to the stream from our buddy Chris Matusin. Is his name cut off on that?
Yeah, a little bit, but that's all right.
Well, Chris Matusin.
We get the concept.
Yeah, so the Sod Bank Stalker has been out. He has not been out fishing as much as he normally does. But you see that junky rod sitting there on the sod bank, this little twig that he started using this season, and he's starting to put some decent fish on there. John, what do you think about that rod in your professional opinion?
He loves it. I think for what he's using it for, it's ideally what he wanted. So yeah. He's very happy with it, and I have a few people now asking, now that they're seeing fish being caught on it, hey, I need that rod.
Yeah, it's so for those that are unaware, it is a Creeley custom, and what is it? The Sod Pig
Special is what
Sod
we call
Pig
it.
Special.
It's a North Forks composite 7.6 flipping. It's ideally what you want, to get in on a bigger bass in the back. It's perfect.
Very nice, very nice. So he's apparently very happy with that rod. And if you ever follow Chris on social media at all, he's always got nice fish that are coming in, whether it's striped bass up here in the Mid-Atlantic, or if he's heading to the Dominican Republic and catching those world-class tarpon. He's always on the big fish, and it was a challenge. I know you were stressed about getting that rod together for him the right way, but by all accounts from him, it's a winner. So good job on that. So those were the ones from Chris. And we had a couple of others. And this is from Chris Hanna. So sheepshead. he's out there, and we were talking back. Chris and I were talking back and forth a little bit about sheepshead, and when's a good time to start. These are only a few of the pictures that he had. Man, he got on them this past weekend, as you can see, and he said once that water temperature hit 62, it kind of turned on for him, and you could see this in the floor of the kayak. Those are, for a little frame of reference, those are pretty big fish. These are not the little tiny, as Qua called them, the eater size, or the ones, if you're going to keep one that you're eating. These are the bigger ones. So it looks like the sheepshead is kicking off. We could talk about that in a little bit. And then we have the mayor, John, with his limit from Saturday. And we're going to talk a lot about that because I know you have some opinions. And the topic of this was, where are the keepers at this point in the season? And you think that I'm going to disagree with you. So I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully we do disagree, because if we're all agreeing, that's not as much fun. But you had some nice fish there. What were the sizes on this?
17 and a quarter, 17 and 3/4, and 19 and a quarter.
Okay.
So
all right. And those were over actually those were in different depths, right? I mean, the big one was in one depth, but the two slots were in an entirely different one.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that, but that's going to be the big topic. So we're looking forward to everyone jumping in and giving your opinions tonight on where we're going to find these fish. And I'm particularly interested because we've got a tournament coming up this weekend. John, you and I are heading out with Don. Unfortunately for Ed, he has to work. So he's going to be working, and John and I are going to be out on the boat competing in the Matthew B flounder tournament. And it's out of Tight Lines this year, right?
That's where it's going to be based out of. It runs from Absecon Inlet all the way down to Cape May is the grounds you can fish. Speaking of that, we were talking about that backstage. You got a little on late. Keep an eye on the weather. Saturday is not looking good. The rain date is Sunday.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, weather does not look good for Saturday.
15 mile per hour winds, 30 mile per hour gusts, and about 2 inches of rain down in AC area.
Well, I got a dry suit.
Yeah, 2 inches of rain, buddy. That's
all right. Well, actually, Sunday might actually work better for me. My son actually graduates on Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, either one. Hopefully they give it an early call though, and they don't do like some of them and call it at 10 or 11 o'clock the night before when people are getting into town and trying to get down into town. So tropical storm, I guess, is the cause, as James is telling us.
Miami got hammered by that. So, I know my wife's brother was actually flying back from Boston, and I think he had a layover in Boston because of that storm. So,
all right. Well, then I guess it's not looking great for us. Post storm is going to be really difficult, but for those that are looking for something to do this weekend, get out there and sign up for it. Matthew B. It is a charitable tournament, which are typically the ones that I recommend if you're thinking about doing them. I will say the last one that I competed in, it was only Elle and I that had entries into the flounder category. And I am a huge fan of the movie Dodgeball. And she sent me a text, which just put me in mind of one of the scenes from there, because she had me beat by, I think it was a half an inch or a quarter of an inch. And she sent a text to me and she said, one of my fish was disqualified. Congratulations. And all I kept thinking was, congratulations on your victory by disqualification. And that's exactly how I'm going to end up ahead of her in this. So it's always fun to see people that also in the same thing. So if you guys want to get out this weekend and put a little money towards a good cause, look up the Matthew B tournament. Be fun to get out there. It'd be interesting to see if we can get some people that watch this, subscribe to the channel or listen to the podcast out there and beating me and John this weekend. So yeah, and Elle is mentioning she didn't have the qualifier in two of her pictures. I actually lost a couple of or one fish only one, because I didn't have the identifying picture on there because it blew away and sank immediately. I was very devastated because I had spent the 70 cents to laminate it and everything. So, so that's coming up this weekend. So now let's talk about, where are these fish? Now, a couple of weeks ago, the last time that I was out, we were going on the theory that they were shallow, shallow, and shallower. And that's where people were picking up the fish. That's where I was picking up the fish. I think that's where we were all catching them, except for you, John. You were getting some decent action in the deeper water. What did you notice this weekend?
Differences, deeper.
Deeper?
A lot deeper. Let's see, the 17 3/4 was pulled at 25 feet. That 19 1/4 was pulled at probably 35, 40 feet. I found a pothole. It just dropped off, and that's
I know where you were. I know where you were. It gets to about 38 feet.
Yeah, it
depending on the tide, it can go over 40 at certain tides.
It was incoming tide. I think it was around 10:45. I think high tide was at, slack was 11:30, if I remember correctly. So I want to say it was about maybe 40 feet. And then I made my way back to the flat, and 6 feet of water was the last one that I pulled.
And that was one of the small slots.
Yeah, that was the smaller of the slots. Now, what I noticed, though, it seems that the bite was more consistent and more aggressive in the deeper water. I had a lot more shorts in the shallow, though.
A lot more shorts. Okay.
Yes.
Ed, your last trip out, I was with you. What did you notice as far as the depths?
A whole lot of nothing. No matter where.
It was a rough day.
Shallow, deep, it didn't matter. We weren't getting nothing.
I mean, we were catching fish. We just weren't getting the right size fish, except for Mike. Mike Warner, of course, people have seen him on this before, heard him on the podcast. The guy that I describe as just a fishy dude. He caught his limit and was out of there in like 2 hours. Ed and I were just staring at each other. And we only had about 3 hours to fish total. And Ed and I were just pulling short after short after short. And I think the closest I got was this. I mean, I got pretty close, 16 and 3/4. But we were fishing shallow, though. We were fishing anywhere from 8 feet down to 15, I think was probably about the deepest.
I think 20, but yeah, it was one.
Was it 20?
Little spot?
Okay. Yeah. So Mike was the one pulling him in, and what was interesting though is he was using gulp, but he was using the jerk shads, and it seemed like that jerk shad was just every single one that he caught was on that. Whereas for me, what I did is I pulled the tail off of one to try to get jerk shad ish, and I did start catching some on there. But I actually didn't bring jerk shads. I only had the grubs, and I had the the swim shads with the paddle tail on them. What else did I have? I had something else that I was using. Oh, I had the shrimp lures, and the gulp shrimps, and those did nothing. Those did absolutely zero on anything that was shrimp. But yeah, it was a difficult day. And from what I saw, it was pretty difficult for most people that were shallow water that day. The boats
didn't seem like anybody.
Go ahead.
Didn't seem like anybody went nuts catching fish that day.
No, I mean I did see some people, and they were catching them in the inlets deep, and that's something that we had actually talked about, potentially hitting the inlet and fishing closer to the inlet. And one of the things that I think that we didn't quite take into account the way that we should have was the amount of rain that came through that previous night. I thought it was almost nothing. And I was hearing afterwards that it was quite a bit of rain that came through. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. The water was still pretty clean. But I don't know. It was a difficult day, a whole bunch of shorts. It was fun getting in and going across that flat, having to lift up the drives. It got really shallow really quick on that flat.
But did you notice how on that flat it was like a snake? Like there was like a trough carved out of it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's got to be somebody that's launching their boat there that just dug it out with their propeller, because it was only about 3 feet wide too. There were a couple of spots that you could see were just kind of dug out a little bit, but there were some times where we had to use the paddles to get in. And that was I think that was the day before. I think it was the day before I went to North Carolina. So I had that. Oh, it was 2 days before. So I had to do that short day. Yeah, but it was difficult, very difficult. That was also the day that woman drowned. We were near Atlantic City, and we were watching that helicopter the whole time, and it hovered there for people that don't know. It looks like the boat sank or capsized, and one of the passengers was lost. And I don't think she had a PFD on or anything, because that helicopter, it just came flying out, and it hovered for 45 minutes to an hour just in one spot. Whenever you see the Coast Guard doing that, it's never good. Never good.
Yeah,
so
I ended up reading a firsthand account of somebody that was there, and he said the boat was taken on water, and the captain or whatever gunned the throttle, and then the boat rolled. So
it was too heavy.
Got stuck in the forward cabin.
Oh, so she was that's why it took so long. She was stuck inside. It did have a cabin.
Yeah, it was like a little cabin, cuddy cabin.
It's disappointing. What are you going to say? And I was afraid that she tried to jump off and swim during a spring tide, which is never a good idea when you're that close to an inlet and there's more narrow channels, because unless you're a really good swimmer, it can pull you at 3, 4, 5 miles per hour, which is impossible actually for a human to swim against. You have to figure out how to swim with it, which an experienced swimmer would be okay. They would know, go across, or don't fight directly into it. But I think most people on these boats nowadays don't really understand anything about water safety if they actually hit the water.
No.
So a couple of things, John. So let's talk about what you were using. So we talked about, Mike was catching on the jerk shad. And I think it was actually a pink shine jerk shad that he was catching his on. He had a ton of success. There was a guy fishing in a boat near us. He had some success. Actually, he and Mike, it was a really narrow area. He and Mike kind of had the one area that seemed to really be producing, kind of locked down. So Ed and I were kind of sitting back, because you couldn't crowd multiple kayaks in there with this boat. He was using an orange grub, and he seemed to be doing pretty good. John, what have you been using that's been working?
Let's go back to last weekend, because we didn't do a live stream last weekend. Me and Tad went out, and it was 15 to 25 feet of water. A lot of boats. We heard the radio. They were not catching anything. Me and him found a trough, just started hitting a bunch of shorts. Tad made a rookie mistake, and that's, he's learning. So he had the drag too tight, and the rod that you use, Rich, is the same rod he had. I've never seen it bent over like that, and it was a fluke. So he lost a nice one. I lost a nice one, and I think that day I got a 19 3/4. It was close to 20 inches, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And that was 15 to 25 feet. That day I was using Pink Shine and Glow, and I can't remember exactly which one it hit. I think I had the Glow on the teaser, the Pink Shine on the bucktail, with a Glow bucktail.
Gotcha.
Water was a little dirty. We had a south wind that day, so
south winds ruin everything.
Hey, but you know what? I told him, I'm like, even with the south wind, be happy what we did today, because for me and him, I think we put like 30 or 40 fish together within a 5-hour period before that wind really started cranking. So for a south wind, I'll take it. Fast forward to this week. That was a west wind. Weather was wrong again. The wind turned to east around 12 o'clock. Thankfully, I was done by then. And it rained a little bit too. I caught all my stuff on the mackerel grub, with a white bucktail, or the sardine grub, and the 3-inch natural shrimp by Berkeley.
Okay.
Again, I'm a firm believer in match to hatch. You look at what's these fluke are eating right now. They're eating grass shrimp. They're spitting up juvenile blue claws like crazy. And then the one I had spit up a hermit. So match a hatch. That's the best I could say.
Yeah. Actually, had mentioned earlier in the chat that she hasn't seen any shrimp coming out anymore from the bellies of the
I
fluke.
I had it all over my pants on
Yeah.
Friday.
Well,
So
you're also fishing more south than
yes,
she is typically. So maybe it's just a little bit of a local thing there. I've seen some pictures of some really large mantis shrimp getting pulled out, like up to 8-inch mantis shrimp, um, getting pulled out of the bellies. And I'll tell you, I've been trying to get some mantis shrimp gulp, and I cannot find it. I even sell it, and I can't. It's out of stock. I can't get it. So I was going to give that a go, but what about the killies? I mean, I was having my most success on killies, and have
Achilles.
you been doing that?
So yeah, but that ended up with a broken rod.
Yeah. So before you talk about that, I'll say this. And I'll put up a video. I'm not going to do a full video of the trip, but I'll put up a clip at some point of the bluefish that I caught. Had it right up to the boat, but I had no way to actually boat the thing without pulling a 3-foot bluefish into my lap on that flounder rod, and it was all good. And I didn't have the runkle on. I had the Accurist S3 on there with that rod, and it handled it really well. But you had some cheap blank on that you used for your rod, right?
Bullshit. um, I started out at 8 o'clock in the morning. I think I was halfway through the incoming tide, and I went up to a side bank where I know I get a few bites. Nothing was happening, so I short drifted it a few more times. I'm like, all right, well, it's time to use live bait. And I am one of those guys that hates using live bait, but lately Achilles have been working, so I throw that on the teaser, lay it down. Now, mind you, I got 20-pound fluoro on. I
Yeah.
feel razor sharp bites. I ignore it. I don't want anything to do with it. I knew exactly what it was. Comes back again. I'm like, screw it. Let's have some fun. Set the hook, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this could be a personal best bluefish. My personal best is 13 pounds. So about 5 minutes into the fight, I'm running, chasing, backing down, whatever I can do. I'm using a Century Weapon Junior, which, if any of you guys know, Century makes some of the best rods out there.
Yep. Absolutely.
I get this bluefish up to the boat. Had it been 40 inches long, probably 18 pounds. I reach for the net, decides to do a tarpon move, comes out of the water, dives directly underneath the kayak and goes underneath and starts running again just to snap the tip of the rod. I don't care what rod you're using. Doesn't matter brand, make, model. Don't care. Unless you're using a parabolic rod, it's not going to handle what just happened. And I don't think any other rod through that fight would have lasted as long as it did.
Well, maybe not a small inshore fluke rod.
No. I mean, if we're talking like a seeker, trolling rod, yeah, sure, it would have been fine. But we're talking an inshore rod that these guys were catching 40-pound bass on them. But again, it's the way that bluefish ran and just the way it reacted. It's not gonna last.
So you hook that on a killie.
Yes.
It's not a minnow, a killie.
Yes.
And I want to see if it was the same spot where I hooked mine. So you had that bridge, and when you start heading back, that first creek.
Exactly
Right
the same exact spot.
Okay, it was right where it dropped down from 18 or from 12 down to 25.
Yep.
That's
Just
exactly
about
where I
25.
hooked mine. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see another Captain Hank's bucktail in its face?
No, I
Okay.
did not see anything, but this thing was massive. Yeah, exactly the same exact spot, and I expected that to happen. I was like, either I'm going to get a fluke here or there's going to be a big-ass bluefish. And
yeah, It's a good spot. I mean, it's, to talk about the spots, it's got a very rapid drop off from it actually goes up to about 4 feet where a creek comes out.
Yeah.
And then it has this little gully where it drops down to 25. And then it very slowly around the edges kind of fans down to 25. And it's in it comes into a main channel. So you have a small creek to a main channel. And at certain times of the tide, you get a really nice outflow of just bait fish and just forage coming out of there. So you have little crabs coming through, and I was actually some of the fish that I put into that tournament I caught there, and it's a great spot for a kayak because you can actually beach yourself right in the creek and then just push back with the paddle and just float right back down. So I was able to get the pictures of the fish. That's actually where I lost the identifier as well. It kind of blew off the kayak. It was really windy that day. But yeah, it was a good spot. But it's a very good spot for bluefish, very good spot for striped bass, very good spot for weak fish. Depending on the tides, right? It depends on the tides. But at various tides, it will hold literally anything back there, including, unfortunately, very large dogfish.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So, all right. So let me go through and just see. Want to make sure we're not missing comments in here. So Diesel is catching his keepers on the top rig with a 5-inch sand eel. Is that a sand eel gulp? Isn't that the one that I was making fun of a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I think the ones that you or something.
Yeah, I actually had
They
some
were
left
old,
in one
whatever.
of the containers, and when I was down in the Outer Banks, I caught a speckled trout on one of them. I just wanted to get rid of it. I didn't think I was going to catch anything, so I threw it on there and was just jigging, and I caught one on there. Maybe I'll give if Diesel's doing well on them, it's worth a try. Let's see. Roadkill is asking, Roadkill crew, did any of you finally get a night trip in? We keep saying we're going to get one together.
Negative.
No.
So here's what I'm going to say. I am 100% going to be doing a night trip the week of the 4th of July because I'm going to be down for a full week in South Jersey. So I'm definitely going to be doing some night trips. And I guarantee I'll say right now, I will put up videos specifically, even though night videos suck. I will do them just to show what it looks like at night when you're fishing for flounder and the success that you can have. So I kind of put some pressure on myself. I now have to produce at night for flounder. But I will say, Ed, you sent me a picture of that really nice, what was it, 7-pound fluke caught at night in an inlet.
Yeah, off a jetty.
Off a jetty, nighttime. So, well, next to Atlantic City. So, I mean, it's lights all over the place. So you still have the lights going on there, but well, it depends on which jetty, I guess.
Yeah, but they're still, they're not enough to light the water and provide, any advantage to the fish.
Okay. But if they're the jetties that I think they are, it's outstanding for the structure on the bottom for the flounder. And it's outstanding because you see people drifting those exact spots and fishing off those jetties for flounder during the day. But man, it was a beautiful fish. One of the tackle shops, I'm not going to advertise for the tackle shop, but one of the tackle shops had a video of it. It's a pretty nice sized fish. I'm just going by the weight they said because it was literally held out as far as you could from your body, so you couldn't really tell how big it was. But it looked like a decent one. But it wasn't tight line, so I'm not gonna talk about.
I know exactly which one it is now.
Yeah, and now you know why I'm not talking about
it. Triple B.
Yeah, I just sent that in the private chat.
Yeah. Yeah. So Don is saying that he's catching Friday. He caught all of his flounder on the incoming in the inlet. So one of the things to keep in mind, and this is for those that aren't aware, so the storms that you have can have an impact on flounder, especially when you're talking about summer flounder, which is generally what we have in the mid-Atlantic and up to the Northeast, also called fluke. They are they are of the species, the major species of flounder on the east coast of the United States. They're the ones that are really sensitive to the salinity of the water. So when you have big storms, and this is where I was saying earlier, Ed and I probably didn't do enough thought behind the storm that came through, literally just stopped me before we went out fishing a couple hours earlier. When the salinity drops, those fish in our areas will move closer to the higher salinity water of the inlets. Now, if they're 4 miles away, they're not going to just jet 4 miles and go right back to the inlet, but they're going to start creeping back towards the heavier currents with the fresh water that comes in from offshore. So whenever there's large storms coming through, like Saturday, I will tell you right now, if Saturday is going to get rained out and it's going to be 2 inches of rain, we better be sticking closer to the inlets, because that's a significant amount of rain and that will drop salinity levels. And summer flounder will look for higher salt areas at that time. So if you didn't know that, I'm telling you right now, it's not my opinion. It is an absolute fact. You want to get closer to the inlets. And again, don't go right to the inlets. You don't need to do that. But they could move a quarter of a mile. They could move just 70, 80 feet just to get into the channel that's on the ICW, as opposed to off the channel and in a creek that doesn't get the water flow. So keep that kind of stuff in mind. So it makes sense when Don's saying that he was catching some in the inlet. The other thing that we have going, and it goes into where are the keepers, is it's getting to be that time of the year where the fish are going to start pushing back out offshore, right? So where they were up in 6 feet a couple of weeks ago, they are slowly making their way back out, and they're going to be in the inlets and they're going to be heading offshore. And that's where you get the offshore bite picking up in the wrecks. And that's where we had the big debate between people that fish from boats offshore and the backwater fishermen when it came to how long is the season going to be and when does it start, because the backwater people want it early and the guys with the boats that are fishing offshore want it late. So it's another thing to bring up. Ed, what's your thought? If you were going with us on Saturday, what are you thinking about where these keepers are going to be for flounder?
Well, if I was going Saturday, I'd probably cancel because it doesn't look like it's going to be a fun day of fish in the rain. But on a perfect day, I'd be fishing. I'd be looking a little deeper. I think the water's starting to warm up enough that they're going to be a little deeper, but it's still early. It's still really early. I don't really start producing fish till mid to late June, like bigger fish. So I don't know. This year's just weird.
John, share with everyone your plan. You've got this all mapped out.
Well, it's now backfired. No, I think it's still actually the same plan. I just don't think where I want to go to my secret spot. I don't want to go there now. If we're fishing Sunday, I think the other channels that me and Don have talked about and looked at, 30, 40, I think even one of the drop-offs was 50 feet, close to the inlet. That's where I want to be. And that's where I'm going to be fishing, because if we're going to get 2 inches of rain, like you said, they're going to be looking for a higher salinity. That means that, you might have a little more salt on the bottom too. That's where they're going to hang out. That's where I want to fish.
Well, if we're going to be fishing 50 feet, then I'm going to say, Ed, would you please put an order together for me of 2 ounce, 2 ounce of the big heads? I need about, I'm going to need 9 of them for this weekend.
Big heads don't come that big.
Okay, then I'll take the fluke tail.
Yeah, we put it together in order for
stage.
Yeah. Me and Rich both, and I will need that on Friday. I will swing by and pick them up.
Yeah, there you go, Ed. You just made a sale. 2 sales. John will pick mine
on
up
top
too,
of all the other ones that I have to do.
Yeah. Well, come
But
on, man.
pro staff, dude. Rush order. We need it.
Yeah, right. That means we go
Pro staff, no,
last.
see, yeah, pro staff are usually the ones that get shuffled for everyone else.
Yeah.
We got a tournament, man. We got to advertise.
Yeah. Well, we'll advertise in your secret spot. We'll let every
Listen,
you should never
new
say
pro staff
you're going to
rules
your secret
2
spot.
weeks in advance.
Nobody knows my secret spot except you.
Yeah, but if they recognize you on the water, they will know your secret spot.
Nobody goes back there.
Okay. I had a guy recognize me down at OBX last year, so you never know who's
If
going to
it's-
recognize you.
If your secret spot's where I think it is, everybody knows where that spot is.
Everybody does know where it is, but they just don't know how to fish it. That's the problem.
All right.
All right.
We'll see. We'll see you on Friday or on Sunday. I guess it's going to end up being.
We're not going there.
Look, and someone finally agrees with me.
So I
Thank
Don
you.
and Don's who we're fishing with this weekend. He's going to agree with you no matter what, so you can stir John up before he has him on the boat for the whole day. I actually catch the biggest fluke of the year in the hottest time of the summer. And it goes to, I think I've talked about this before. There's certain times where it just gets more predictable, like the outgoing. I like the outgoing because it cuts down on the amount of area that the fish can be in, right? Once the flats start to drain, they won't be up on the flats. They're going to start moving out into the deeper water. So it just kind of narrows the scope for them. It's the same thing with the hotter water temperatures. Now we're really far from that. We're still what at seven? What was it, John? 72, 70, 71?
It was when I started out, it was 72.
Okay.
When I got back to the launch, it was 65, which I found very odd, but whatever.
So it's still pretty cold. So we're still a
Yeah.
while away from that. But the hottest time, like in August, I love August fluke fishing because it's the same thing as the outgoing tide where you get less water. It gets hotter and they're going to start looking for the cooler pockets. So it's the opposite of what we've just been talking about the past 3 weeks as to where to go, where you're looking for the warmer water up in the flats. Now you're starting to look for the really nice current down in the deeper areas. And that for me does make it easier. I love that. I would love to be fishing in 85-degree water at the surface, just because then I know I'm looking for something that's deeper where I can find a 2, 3, 4 degree temperature drop deep down. I just wish we had a way to measure it.
My best days came on them a couple years ago. Hot, stale, no wind, just drifting with the current. Those are the best days.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that. And I don't know. You hear like there are a couple things like you will catch really big fish in early May. You just will. I've already caught a nice one, and I've only been out 4 times, a 24-inch. But I don't know, man. Maybe I just fish more in August, which is also possible, and I just haven't thought about it closely enough. But I've caught a lot of 22, 24, 25, 26 inchers in the back in the hottest days of the summer. And it's always on that deep drop off. And that's where I'm talking anything from 20 down to 50 feet in the backwaters, which typically means closer to the inlets, definitely closer to the inlets, at least in the areas that I fish, because the inlets will be 50 feet. And then the backwaters are typically going to be around 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Unfortunately, these tournaments are ahead of that really hot weather, though.
I think the Duke of Fluke is mid-July, so we should have a little bit of warmer water, so that'll be a little bit to our advantage.
And where's that out of again?
That's down in Cape May.
It's in Cape May, or is it in Wildwood?
Well, I have no idea. All I know is it's Sterling Harbor.
Oh, Sterling Harbor.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess we're doing that this year. So we've got the Matthew B coming up this week. And then what is it? The 25th or something around there. Grassy Sound. So we'll be doing that one. And then we got the Duke of Fluke. That's like truly mid-July.
Mid-July, yes. It is July 15th or 16th.
Okay. Then I can't do the next week. But man, I wish they were doing them in August. I would love that. I would love it. But we gotta start thinking about sheepshead, and we gotta start thinking
Yes.
about alternate species as well, and getting out onto those, because all you have to do is look at those pictures that came in from Chris right there, and they're already there. His whole name is actually on there. I don't know why it didn't show up. Yeah, we'll have to head out for them. And it looks to me, though, from everything that I've heard and everything that I've seen from people that have emailed, it's on now. So if you want to start looking for sheepshead, it is not only that they're there, it's a consistent bite. It's a consistent bite, and I'm talking sod banks is what I'm hearing the most, where people are getting them the most, and then bridges are after that.
Think we need to. Sorry, Gad.
No, go ahead.
I think we need to get out with Diesel. If he's fishing that tournament himself, I'm assuming he's going to be in his boat. I just need some spots for us in the kayak, because Wildwood sucks. I hate
No, it
fishing
doesn't.
down. I hate fishing down there for fluke. I don't like fishing fluke down there. It's just I have no success.
So I will tell you this: if Diesel chooses to share with you, he will tell you literally the exact spot where he catches. Consistently multiple 22 plus in a trip. He's told me, I have not fished there. I told him I will not fish that spot without him, and we haven't gotten on the water together. But it's actually a pretty surprising. When you look at the contours in the bottom, it's not surprising. But when you look just on a map as to where it is, you'd be like, there's no way. There's no way that this is holding a ton of big fish, because I'm not even going to give any other information, but you would just not, it's not intuitive that that's where they would be.
I think it's the same exact spot. As soon as I look on it at Navionics, it's like, this just looks like a blob of water. How would it even be possible? But then you look at all the contour and you're like, yeah, that something can happen there.
It's not that spot. I will tell you. It's not. I think I know the one you're talking about. That is a good spot, but his is ridiculous. And
all right.
Yeah, so we'll have to get out there with him. James is asking if we're going to do the first annual Fat Dad Fluke tournament.
You want to do it in August? Let's.
I think he's volunteering to run it.
Yeah, James is, and we're doing it in August. Just can't be August 7th. I have a wedding.
Yeah, well, we'll have to figure out prizes. Maybe we'll do just a fun one for everybody that watches this, and bragging rights plus a little bit of something else. We'll throw something else in.
Third place is a Barbie rod.
A Barbie rod.
We'll have to make like some like outrageous trophy or something, and that just gets passed around.
That's a good idea. We'll do something like that. John can do a custom on a Barbie blank.
I gotta find something cheap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just a custom rod on a Barbie blank. That would be awesome.
I'll just do.
I got a bunch of seconds. We should just make it totally like outrageous. Like I can give a bunch of like the seconds jigs that I wouldn't sell to anybody.
Yeah, like
stupid trophy, a Barbie rod
hanging off them.
Yeah,
a dirty
participation trophy has a good idea. How about if we just give out participation trophies?
I like it.
I'd be down with that. But we could do some real. We could probably do some real stuff. Yeah. We can do the course. We can do. I'm sure we can get some other stuff together. So we'll see.
Let's talk about that for a minute, Rich. Since you brought that up, the course. It's not trying to sell anything, but you look at last year with me and Fluken, I did all right. I go and watch the course. Yeah, there was a lot of things I knew, but there was a couple things like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I watch it from time and time again to go just refresher. And that's why I think this year I've been doing a lot better with fishing. And you've said it yourself. It's you go and watch the course before you head out sometimes just to, hey, let me refresh my head here. There's a lot of good information in there. So if some people on here watching right now are struggling, I do suggest look at this course. It might benefit you.
Yeah, I mean, I put hundreds of hours into it. And well, thank you. I'm glad it is helping. I have gotten some really good feedback on it. I literally watch my own course, because just because you know something doesn't mean it's at the top of your mind. So there are days where I'll be like, okay, I'm going to target this type of area, and I'll look at it just to kind of get it into my head and get into the zone. Like docks is a big one. If I'm going to fish docks, I will watch that before I fish docks, because I don't do it all that often. I just don't. And it helps me get like in the mindset of what to look for when I'm on the water. And, when Navionics doesn't quite work as well as, it's not reading the correct depths. And you have to kind of adjust on the fly. It helps you kind of keep it in your mind exactly what to focus on. By the way, with Navionics, again, I'm going to say I love Navionics. I think everybody should use it without hesitation. Spend the money to get it, and you can get the one just on your phone. If you have a fish finder, just pay for the thing. It's like $120, $130, and then you get the updates every year. You got to pay for it every year or two. But I was down in the Outer Banks, and I was in an area that was 20 feet deep, and it was reading 1 foot on Navionics. And here's the thing. I knew it was 20 feet because it's been 20 feet for the past 3 years when I've gone through that area in the kayak, and Navionics still goes back and shows it as 1 foot, 1 foot deep. There are signs along the road that says severe drop off in 75 feet from shore. Don't walk out. And, so you get that kind of crap with Navionics, but for the most part, it's pretty darn good. And it really gives you a good sense of what you can find in certain areas. And if it's off, it's usually not the difference between 1 foot and 20 feet. It's a difference between, 15 or 20 yards away from the hole. The hole used to be here and it went down to 30 feet. Well, now the hole is 15 or 20 yards off to the side and it goes down to 18 feet. So there are changes, but it's something that I think people should look at. Definitely invest in it. I know it sucks to always go out and spend money on stuff, but that's a game changer. If you can plan ahead, or if you can make decisions on the fly, you're not getting something in the area that you picked. Instead of just going and looking for other boats, you can look on the Navionics charts and say, you know what, here's a pretty good ledge, or here's a little buckle on the bottom where we should get some nice current pushing some bait fish into this area. Then you can go in and target that. So I would recommend looking at that. And of course, I do think the course is good.
Phone. But I have the app on my phone, and that thing updates all the time. It's like $15 a year.
Yeah, I can't see my phone on the water. It doesn't work, mainly because I have it in the waterproof sleeve.
Oh yeah.
And I just can't use it at all. The worst is when you try to bring up Google Maps or something on my phone. I just can't. It just doesn't work.
I will tell you this. I dropped the iPhone in the water in about 4 feet of water. I was able to get it back, and hey, it still works with no case, no sleeve, no nothing.
So mine's waterproof.
I was going to say the new ones are waterproof.
Yeah, my Android is.
I'm trying to convince him to get off the Android.
So my Android is waterproof. However, I don't have a case that or a tether that I trust with it, and I do trust those waterproof cases. So that's why I have it. And I don't know if I'll stay with. My wife is saying she might go to an iPhone, in which case I may as well, because then features don't work. So anyway,
pretty good.
All right, so this weekend.
Go ahead. No, I was just saying I was diehard Android years ago, and then switched over to iPhone, and I won't go back.
iPhone sucks. Let's just be honest. You kids, all you youngins, you need your iPhones. You need to sit in line like a bunch of little chimps.
From a business standpoint, it's definitely a lot easier to use.
Well, I'm in IT, so I don't think so.
Oh, for me, it is.
All All right. So this weekend, let's kind of go back and sum it up if we're talking about flounder. Flounder. So are we in agreement? Is the consensus that we're going to start looking deeper and we're going to start looking at that 25 feet?
That's my plan for Friday. I'm going out on Friday.
You're going Friday? Are you going with John? John's
Yeah.
going Friday, right?
Yeah, I'm
No,
going out with
I
John.
am. I wasn't invited on the Don and John show, so I am going to captain the boat for my parents and get them on some fish.
Oh, good.
So
That'll be nice.
yeah.
Gotta show your dad how to fish, man.
He just doesn't want to listen to me. That's the thing. He knows how to
Dude,
fish. He just doesn't want
That's
to
how.
listen to me.
Yeah, I know. That's how it always is. My dad was always like that. Be like, hey, why don't we try here? He's like, why don't you just shut up? I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
well, why don't
that's-
we?
that's
because
exactly the
I've been doing
response I
this
get.
60 years. Yeah, his answer was because I've been doing this 60 years. You've only been doing it 20. I'm like, okay, all right, gotcha.
That's the exact response I get.
Yeah, and then God help you if you outfish them and give you the dirty looks.
The whole car ride home is silent.
Yeah, you get the dirty looks, except then they say, well, it was my spot that you caught all my fish in. Those were my fish that you caught, my spot. Yeah.
Well, then he expects his vacuum packed, sealed fillets.
Well, right. My dad used to vacuum seal all of his. Now I'm turning into a dad. I'm like those commercials. I'm ready to go get a vacuum sealer, and my wife's looking at me like, no, you may as well get a minivan. Just don't admit you're that old yet.
They're the best. I got one last year for Christmas. That's the best Christmas present I ever got. Better than a dirt bike.
No, it's not. It's
No.
not better than a dirt bike, but it's one thing to get it as a gift, and it's another thing to buy it for yourself.
I was fully prepared to go buy one. I just so happened to get one for a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
My wife got it for Christmas a couple of years ago. It's the greatest thing we could ever ask for. I like it.
I guess I don't catch enough fish to really need it.
It does not beat a YZ 125 though. Just saying.
At this age, it does, because if you get on one of them, you're getting hurt.
That's fun. Come on, dude.
So James, he's saying, "Come on, Ed. Well, Ed has had his fill of motorcycles in his life. I think
I've had a lot of motorcycles, a lot of race cars, a lot of crazies. Fishing's good.
Yeah, a lot of injury. Yeah, fishing's a little bit more relaxing. All right, so 25 feet of water. John, are you still sticking with the incoming, or are you outgoing, or indifferent at this point?
We don't have a choice. It's outgoing.
Well, for this weekend.
Right now, I'm still a little partial to the incoming.
Okay.
Fresh water flow coming in, and that seems to have been the ticket for me. So I want to stick with that until maybe a couple more weeks, and then that's when I'm going to start trying to plan around an outgoing.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm going to go incoming for the period of time coming up because of all the rain. So getting that saltwater infusion back into the backwaters. Again, this is just backwaters. If you're offshore, the salinity isn't going to change because of 2 inches of water and 90 feet. So you don't really have to worry about that kind of stuff. But the backwaters, yeah, keep that in mind. So, all right. So incoming, Ed, do you care incoming, outgoing?
Well, I'm fishing Friday, so it doesn't much matter. I don't think we're getting any rain between. We might get some Wednesday, but we'll have a couple tide cycles, so I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
But I think it's gonna be a weird tide, so I think I'm gonna get to fish both. So we'll see. I always preferred incoming, so we'll see what happens.
All right. I'm the counter one. I still prefer outgoing, but I think it's going to be an incoming tide weekend for the area. So let's see. Any other things that we're missing here? Crabbing and fishing. His meat grinder is still in the box. Yep, it would be like the bread maker that's still in the box.
I'd like to touch on KB's. He said his prop shaft and floating nut fell out of the pedal unit. How old's the boat? I mean, those drives have a 5-year warranty.
Well,
the only
okay.
other thing
So the big water last week, the shaft, prop, and floating nut fell off the pedal unit. Old Town's response is they don't sell that part and have to buy a new pedal drive. Any thoughts?
Yeah, but how old is the boat? Let's go with that first.
Well, there's two
I-
issues there. There's two issues there. They don't sell the floating thing. That's Navarre. So if you lost the
Yeah.
floating nut, you got to go to Navarre to get that. But the shaft coming out of the big water, and it can't be that old if it's the big water and not the predator, because they only came out 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it would be the exact same age as, yeah. Actually, he just said 2 years. So his is the exact same age as mine. That to me
Sorry, the
sounds like
original
a
owner?
wear and it sounds like a wear and tear thing. However, I have found no matter how much I love Old Town, they don't really stand up for some things, right? So all of the black, what is the type of paint that they have on the drives? I
I
don't
don't know if
know.
that's
I don't.
powder coat or paint.
It's not. Well, maybe it's powder coat. It's all like chipping off. I mean, I have huge chips off of it, and it's extremely thick, and it's just off. And the answer that I got was, "That's just wear and tear." I'm like, "Really?" Because I rinse it as soon as I get, I rinse it every time within 2 hours. Not only rinse it, but I actually clean it with soap and everything. So maybe they're saying that it's wear and tear that caused that shaft to come off, but the worst thing that I could have seen is you're the secondhand owner, and that does void the warranty on the drive. Actually, I think it voids the warranty on the hull as well.
So
Yeah.
me and you had this discussion, Rich. If he bought it from an authorized Old Town dealer and he was a secondhand owner, it would be like buying a certified pre-owned car.
Yeah.
If not, then it's unfortunately that is going to be the problem.
Now I'm assuming
sucks.
you lost those pieces, KB. Is what it sounds like.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, he lost them, but the question is, do you need a whole new drive just to replace that shaft?
There's going to be a bearing, a shaft, a clip. That sounds like the whole lower unit of that.
There should be. Well, there's going to be. I think if
How do you
I've
lose a
seen
shaft?
videos of them taken apart, I
know.
think there's a pinion gear that drives it. There's a couple different pieces in there, so you may be able to take it apart. Try Nick at Navarre. I know he services them. He might have some used parts laying around.
Brand new, it's going to cost you $900 to get a new drive.
They're up to 1,100 now, I believe.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it fixed. If I lose mine, I'm not getting another one anytime soon. I just can't drop $1,100. So I can't imagine KB the stress that you have now because of that. It's like the stress that I had when I had an outboard on my boat, and it was like, and you just hear that one sound, and you're like, shit, it's going south. I got to get it in for servicing, and 6 weeks later, yeah. But okay. So the pinion bolt fell out. You should be able to replace all that stuff. I'm guessing that would be less than $50 to get all those parts. And if you have anybody that knows anything about it, or actually, I've seen the videos on YouTube on taking the drive apart. It's already not in warranty, so you don't have to worry about voiding anything. Take it apart and put it back together. You should be okay. But I'm guessing it had something to do with salt water.
Most likely.
And the problem, he lost the parts, so the problem is going to be finding replacements. But I think there's got to be people taking these things apart and selling pieces out of them now. It's got to.
There's got to be, though. The other thing too is if you jump on Old Town's website, I bet you they don't sell the part, but there's probably a schematic at least to figure out everything you're going to need. If you lost this part and that part, and you're not sure if there's another thing that goes somewhere.
Yeah. So my one suggestion is this: if they're not going to sell the exact parts from Old Town, go on Facebook, the Old Town Sportsman Owners Group, and just post in there that you need the specific parts. There, I have seen people that have scrapped old drives and have given out parts in the past. So you might be able to find somebody that'll send it to you. And actually, I've seen a lot of people just giving parts away for free. So give it a go. Try the owners groups, the Old Town Sportsman owners group on Facebook is what you're going to want. Otherwise, you're going to get an old Predator gear that won't necessarily work. So, okay. Other things. I don't see any other questions in there. Anything that Andrew's mentioning full moon a week from tomorrow. So the tides will be increased over the weekend as we get closer to the spring tides. That'll only be good if there's a lot of rain because it'll be pulling in a lot more water, but it'll also be pushing a lot of debris out as well. So that's all I'm seeing. Anything that you want to cover before we go, Ed?
No, I'm good. Just everybody be careful. I did forget my PFD. It was we fished some shallow water with no boats, but I almost turned around and went home to get it. So just remember to bring your stuff. Don't forget, even the dumbest little thing.
Yeah, 100%. I don't like going out when people don't have PFDs, but I'm not your dad.
Dude,
so you can do what you want. And it was only
risk.
like a few feet deep.
Although
somebody, you could have walked home from there. John, you have anything you want to hit?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay,
get out there, get it on the water, fish deep holes. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna
get tight
what
lines.
Is it? Yeah,
I said, as Rich says, get tight lines.
Yeah, well, I'll hit that on the pod. That's the podcast exit. I will, but it brings up a good point with the podcast. So this will go on as a podcast coming up. It'll be out on Thursday. Do want to ask people if you would give it a rating and give it a review on Apple if you could. It really helps us to get people to come on as guests. It really helps us to get more people to discover it. It's kind of like YouTube and the algorithm, which, by the way, most people think they know and they don't. Like they tell you, you have to give me a like. No, you don't. The like doesn't really do much for the algorithms on YouTube, no matter what people say. But if you could do that for the podcast, it absolutely definitely helps to get more ratings and especially the written reviews. So it would be greatly appreciated. But we'll be back next week at the same time. We're going to have M&K Outdoors on. So if any of you have ever seen Mike and his daughter Kaylee, I think it's an awesome story. It's just a way for them to kind of spend father-daughter time together on the water. And I'm looking forward to having her come on. They found a time in between her softball games. She's really good at softball as well. I don't know if you've seen the Instagram, but she's really good at softball. So she does not have a game next Monday night, so they're to come on and get to meet them. They have a YouTube channel if you want to check it out in advance. And as John says, until next time, what is it? Until next week, until next time, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines. And we will catch you guys later.
See ya.